Our speaker today is Sister Vibha Saxena, who will talk about Constitution of Man. Sister Vibha is a native of Lucknow. She has completed her Bachelor's of Engineering from Pune University and Master's in Computer Science from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She is also a software developer and has done IT consulting for many multinationals in the US, France, and India. She has traveled across globe and lived several years in Europe and US and India. She believes that life revealed itself in thousands of colors in lives of people she met daily, in different cultures, in different countries, in the pristine beauty of nature, and also in the unmerciful harshness. She also believes that amidst carrying out the duty and responsibility of various roles, she had always had a yearning to know something more beyond daily life. After returning to India, she joined the Theosophical Society in 2015 and what and found what she was actually searching, that is for self-decadence. She currently lives in Noida with her husband and two children. She is serving for TS as secretary for Noida Lodge and president for TOS Delhi region. Now over to Sister Vibha.
Thank you, Kritika, for such an elaborate introduction. Namaste to all of you. And thank you, Suvralina, for this opportunity to be here in the Prayas Lodge and addressing all the people. I believe Prayas Lodge has a lot of young members who are under 20. So it's a very good thing. I welcome all of them to Theosophy and the Theosophic knowledge. Uh, I would like to begin today's talk. Today's talk is about the constitution of man. And I would like to begin this talk by using what the Mahatmas has said. We all know that the Mahatmas are the real founders on the inner planes. They are the ones who were behind the foundation of this Theosophical Society. So, as we try to understand the constitution of man, first let us just know what they have said. I'm quoting the words. They say that in all the world, there are only two kinds of people, those who know and those who do not know. And this knowledge is the thing which matters. So, this is what the Mahatmas has said. This knowledge is the thing which matters. Why? Because right knowledge will lead to right action. Ignorance always leads to misery. That is why it is important to know. And that is why we are here today to understand what is the constitution of man. Further, the masters have said, do not mistake your bodies for yourself. I am quoting the masters. These are the words of the masters. Do not mistake your bodies for yourself. Neither the physical body, nor the astral, nor the mental. Each one of them will pretend to be the self in order to gain what it wants. But you must know them all and know yourself as their master. Now, these are the most important words, I think, that the Masters has given to us so that we may understand who we really are. They clearly say that neither the physical, astral, nor the mental, none of them is you, but they will pretend to be that they are you. It happens so many times that what we want and what our body wants, that is diametrically opposite. We want to do some work, but our body wants to rest. We want to be healthy, but our body says that no, you must eat this food. It is very tasty, right? So we have to learn to differentiate between what is it that we want, what is our goal, and what is it that the body wants. So for that it is necessary to know who we are. Okay. So these quotations which I have just mentioned here, they were the teachings given by the masters to J. Krishnamurti. It was given to him by his master astrally, and then J. Krishnamurti wrote it down in 1910. So this is what I have just quoted to you. So theosophical teachings, they cover a vast range of topics, from the origin of the universe to the constitution of man. So it's a very, very vast topic. And moreover, that this is just lifting a corner of the wheel. This is just part of that knowledge. So Madam Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who was a 19th century Russian mystic, we all know, she was the principal source of this modern theosophical teachings that she has given to us. She lived between 1831 to 1891. That was a very short period, 60 years. But during this time, not only she learned from these masters, but whatever she was taught by these masters, she gave it to us. And she stated that the human beings, they consist of 7 principles. Okay? 7 principles. So that is the constitution of man. And by these 7 principles, man is related, he is directly related to the entire cosmos. Because everything in nature is septenary. So in nature, everything is a multiplicity and it is a trinity in unity. So we will see further in this course, in this study today, how man is related to the entire cosmos through his 7 principles. So I would like to share with you just an image of how you can imagine the constitution of man, because man is a very complex being, and the highest, that is the highermost part, the spiritual, it is related with the lowermost part, the physical, through our mind. That is how a complex being a man is. So let me just share with you a diagram. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible now. When I talk of constitution of man, when we look at each other, we can see only the physical body, but we are more than our physical body. And as I just mentioned, that the constitution of man, it directly relates him to the entire cosmos. In this entire nature, in this entire universe, we consider that there are 7 planes. We will understand what are these 7 planes. And there are many entities other than man who are dwelling on these 7 planes. So we are related to them, we are influenced by them. It is all one big whole. And this is the most important aspect of our being, that everything that we do affects everything else, and everything in the cosmos, it affects us. So now going further, HPP has given a marvelous exposition about the constitution of man in her book, The Key to Theosophy. She dedicated this book to all of us, to her pupils, so that they may learn and teach in their turn. And even the masters have said that if you know, it is your duty to help others know. Okay, but there should not be any pride. It should be for helping the other people to know, so that they may also learn the truth. Remember, there are only two kinds of people, those who know and those who don't. And if you know, it is your duty to help others know. These were the words of the master. So now let us understand what is the importance of the constitution of man. Constitution means component parts, the component parts which make up man. And we know that we are more than our physical body. So man is a triune, right? He can be thought of as having 3 aspects, that is triune. And man is a septenary. That means we can think of him as having 7 principles. Now in our scriptures, we have read that it is said, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. Pinda is microcosm, the man. And Brahmand, that is the macrocosm, universe. So even in the scriptures it is written that just like how microcosm or the man is, in the same way the macrocosm or the universe is. There is a correspondence, there is a relation. So studying the constitution of man, it will enable us to investigate the powers which are inherent in man, the powers which are latent in man. Because we are not only our physical bodies, so we can do much more than this. But that is all latent in our principles. And till now, we do not know what those principles are or what powers they contain. Studying this constitution of man, it will also throw light on the mysteries of reincarnation, on the after death states, which are, uh, people want to know about it. What happens after death? How do we reincarnate? In many cultures, they don't believe in reincarnation. In many cultures, there are a lot of misconceptions about what happens after death, right? So you will, if you study the constitution of man, you will be able to understand scientifically and correctly that how these things work. And not only that, the most important thing is that by understanding this, we can come to know what is meant by transcending the cycle of birth and death. Once you understand the constitution, once you understand reincarnation, once you understand the after death, life after death, then you can come to know what it means to transcend birth and death. That is what is called mukti. That is what is called liberation. And in our scriptures, it is given that that is the goal of our existence. The goal of our existence is to attain mukti or liberation. So what liberation is, you will understand only if you know what is your constitution, right? So by studying, this is the importance of constitution of man, that we will know our proper place in the mighty scheme of universe which is the macrocosm, and what is our place in that, and what role we are destined to play. So now let us talk about the macrocosm. We said that microcosm is related to macrocosm. Remember, macrocosm is the universe, Brahmand, and microcosm is man. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. So what does Theosophy say about microcosm? Theosophy affirms there is one absolute reality, one universal truth, that is one absolute reality. And moreover, it is inexpressible and unimaginable. Now, what do we mean by that? Inexpressible means you cannot speak about it, you cannot describe it because it is beyond words. And unimaginable, you cannot even think how it can be. This is written in the Mandukya Upanishad that this one absolute reality, it is anirvachaniya and it is akalpaniya, that is inexpressible and unimaginable. So if we cannot think about it, we cannot speak about it, then how can we talk about it? How shall we understand it? So for that we use symbolism. And this one absolute reality, it is symbolized by two aspects, Mool Prakriti and Parbrahma. This I am speaking from the Secret Doctrine, Volume 1, the Proem, in which there are these three principles which have been given. So this is the first one, that this one absolute reality, it is symbolized by two aspects. Mool Prakriti, which is the pre-cosmic substance. What is substance? Substance will become matter, out of which the entire universe is made. But this is a pre-cosmic substance, right? So there is no existence now, there is no manifestation, but Mool Prakriti, it exists. That is why it is called abstract space or pre-cosmic substance. And the second aspect, it is Parbrahma. What is Parbrahma? Parbrahma means beyond Brahma. Brahma is the entire Brahmand, which is universe, and something which is beyond Brahmand, Parabrahma. So it is the pre-cosmic consciousness, the consciousness which always exists. It is pure existence, and it is pre-cosmic. That means the universe is not existing, there is no manifestation, but consciousness is existing. That is pure existence itself. And in the Secret Doctrine, it has been described as abstract motion. So we have Mool Prakriti, which is abstract space, and we have Par Brahma, which is abstract motion. And understand that they are symbolic aspects of one absolute reality. That means Mool Prakriti and Par Brahma are one and the same in Mahabuddhi and Mahat, Ahankar and Mahat. Okay, so anyway, we won't go into those details. We will stick to our term monad. Monad is Atma Buddhi. Buddhi is the vehicle of Atma. Atma is pure spirit. Okay, so let's move forward now. So this obligatory pilgrimage or the cycle of necessity, it is a cycle of involution and evolution. We will see how it works. Okay, involution means spirit descends into matter, and evolution means spirit will unfold back and reach its source. So, as the spirit descends into matter, into involution, the divine aspect of knowledge and power, that means Chit and Anand, they become increasingly obscured. They become limited due to the vehicle of matter. Okay. So since they have become limited, evolution means we have to reach back our source. That means we have to unfold this Chit and Anand aspect. That is what our Chidanand nature. Now coming to evolution, the purpose of our existence. Why do we exist? So spirit, as I told you that there are so many grades of matter. When the universe is manifest, there are 7 grades of matter or the 7 planes. On every plane, there are beings which are made out of that matter. So the spirit has to pass through every grade of matter. So they are called as elemental kingdoms. We are not discussing what those kingdoms are, but just understand that on the higher planes, the matter is very ethereal, and the beings of that, they are elementals. So spirit has to pass through the elemental kingdoms, then it reaches down to the mineral kingdom. Mineral kingdom, we know on our earth, the stone, the mud, the mineral, the earth, the rocks. The mineral kingdom, that is the lowest point in the cycle of necessity. And then from there, it will begin the cycle of ascent or the evolution. Okay, so ascent of spirit back to its source. So from elemental to mineral, it is coming down, the cycle of descent. And from mineral, it is going back to its source, that is the cycle of ascent. So there it will go from mineral to plant kingdom, from plant to animal, and from animal to human. Human kingdom is very important. That is where we come into picture, and we are going to study our constitution. So this, when as the spirit is moving through this cycle, the material form or the vehicles, they become more and more perfect, allowing the life to increasingly unfold its divine potential. During descent, matter is dominant. Okay, so it has limited the powers and the consciousness. But during ascent, the spirit becomes dominant and matter becomes subservient. So the powers of the spirit get unfolded. And in human kingdom, what happens? The monad, it comes in association with manas. So this is the differentiating factor of the human kingdom with respect to other kingdoms. That in this kingdom, the monad is associated with manas. Okay, and this forms the real man, the immortal man. And spirit and matter are in equilibrium. So that is why it is said that the highest spirit is connected with the lowest material aspect of man through manas. Okay, so we will see more and more what is the constitution of man. So this manas, it is the higher intelligence. It allows the spirit to reach its source. Okay, and this is the purpose of our existence. It means that we want to evolve, we want to unfold and reach our source. Okay, so moving forward, let us see. We have decided that okay, this is rather we have understood that this is our goal, to reach back to our source. Now, what is the certainty that we will achieve our goal? So in this cycle of ascent, when the spirit is unfolding, there is a parallel evolution of form and consciousness. Now, form is our bodies or the vehicle which spirit has taken, and consciousness is the life. So life is unfolding through more and more perfected forms. The inner unfoldment of the spirit, it is accompanied by the outer development of material bodies, so that these material bodies, they become a perfect temple of the inner God. And inner God is our spirit. Okay. We have seen that goal of human evolution is to attain the divine state. What is the divine state? Divine state is Sat Chit Anand, right? And that is what we have to attain. We are already that. We just have to realize it, become aware of it. So, the goal of human evolution is the attainment of the divine state of omnipotence. Omnipotence is Sat. What is omnipotence? It is perfected will. Okay, potential, that is potence, the power. So willpower, that is Sat. Omnipotence, that is Sat. The second aspect is omniscience. Science, it pertains to knowledge, that is Chit, the second aspect. So to attain the divine state of omniscience or Chit, or the perfected knowledge or wisdom. And the third aspect is omnipresence. Omnipresence is all pervading. That is, everything is me. I am the universe. What we said in the beginning, Aham Brahmasmi. So that is perfected, all embracing love. You love yourself, right? So when you know that everything is me, this whole universe is me, you will love that, the state of supreme bliss. That is Anand. So this is our goal, to attain the divine state of Sat Chit Anand. That is omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Okay? Resistless will, all inclusive wisdom, and all embracing love. Right? Now, attainment of this perfection is absolutely certain for everyone. So we should be very glad that this is certain. This will definitely happen. It will come to me, it will come to you. How will it come? Let us see this. So, as I told you, this goal, it will certainly come to you and certainly come to me. Why can we say that? Because the human goal of perfection has already been reached by some people. These perfect people, they are known as the adepts. They are known as the masters of wisdom, and they are the saviors of our world. So these superhuman beings, they constitute the inner government. Remember, in the beginning, I told you that the founders, the real founders of Theosophical Society in the inner world are these masters, the two adepts. They are the true spiritual teachers, and they are the inspirers of humanity. So the way they have attained this goal, they have given us the teachings how we can attain the same. Right? So it is a thing to rejoice that we have been given this knowledge by the adepts, so that we know ourselves, we know our constitution, and we can tread in the same steps on the same path and reach the same goal. So moving further, I think I should be fast because we are almost reaching half of the time. Adeptship, how these people have attained perfection? They have attained perfection by a succession of lives on earth. It is not that they were born. Okay, we are not talking about avatar. We are talking about human beings who lived here on this earth, and through successive reincarnations, they have perfected their nature. They have perfected their material vehicle. They took a birth every time, and every time they evolved. And every time they take birth, they are subject to the law of cause and effect. Okay, which is the law of karma. So see, connected with our constitution, it is very closely, this law of karma is connected. Okay, the law of incarnation is connected. So first thing is to understand the constitution of man, and then we can understand these cycles and we can reach adeptship. Okay, so I will very briefly tell you about this law of cause and effect. Everybody knows it, and I'm sure they have read about it, that the cause and effects are created on all three levels. On the physical level, the actions; on the astral level, our feelings; and on the mental level, our thoughts. They produce their own effects. The effects may come immediately, or they may come later in the same life, or they may come after many incarnations, but they will definitely come. Okay, and the good and the bad effects, that is what decides our evolution or our progress on this path. Okay, and this law, cause and effect, it is very educative. So it is not a punishment. There is no God sitting in heaven and passing a decree that you should be punished. It is the effects of constitution is such that we work on these three levels of physical action: the feelings, astral feelings, desires, and the mental level, our thoughts. Okay. Now I would like to share with you. So I think this was a rather long introduction, but it was necessary. That what is the importance of Constitution of Man? So I would like to share with you how the Constitution of Man is related to the the cosmic planes. So I'm going to share one more slide with you. Yeah, this slide. So, see, we said that the universe is manifested. It's a periodic process. So, periodically, the universe appears. Now, at the time of this periodic manifestation, the universe appears in the form of 7 grades of matter, from the subtlest to the densest. These are called the cosmic planes. The lowest cosmic plane is the Prakritic plane. Okay, and our entire solar system, it exists on the Prakritic plane. Now, solar system, this itself, and we exist inside the solar system, right? Our sun with its planets. So the solar system itself has 7 solar planes. These 7 solar planes are the subplanes of the Prakritic plane. And remember, Prakritic plane is the lowest plane or the densest plane of the cosmos. So these 7 subplanes of the Prakritic plane, they are our 7 solar planes. And in this, we live and move and have our being. Okay. So what I have shown here in the diagram to the right side of my screen, these are the 7 solar planes. At the lowest level, we have the physical plane, the astral plane above that. Then we have a mental plane. So each of this plane has 7 subdivisions again. Okay. So the lower 4 subdivisions of the mental plane are called the lower mental plane, and the higher 3 subdivisions of mental plane are called the higher mental plane. Okay. Then we have the next subtler plane, which is Buddhic plane, then Atmic, Anupadak, and Adi. Now, one thing you must always keep in mind, these planes are not stratified like the way it is shown in the diagram. They are existing all together here and now. So they are interpenetrating. Okay. Now, these 7 planes, they can also be thought of corresponding to the 7 states of human consciousness. Okay. Okay. Now, coming back to our next further, how the constitution of man relates to these 7 planes. So for that, again, I would like to show you one diagram, and so that you have this picture in front of you and it will be very clear. Yeah, just let me present the diagram once again. Okay, so now here in this slide, you can see that on the left side, I have shown the 7 solar planes, and on the on the left side, you can see the 7 solar planes. On the right side, the 7 principles of man. Okay, so it will be clear how they relate to, how the principles relate to the planes. Now, the 7 principles are numbered 1 to 7, beginning from the lowest. The lowest one is the Sthul Sharir. Okay, and going up to second is Pran, third is Ling Sharir, fourth is Kam, fifth is Manas, sixth is Buddhi, and seventh is Atma. Okay, so this is the numbering which is followed by Madam Blavatsky. So I'm using the same, that the highest principle, the 7th principle, that is called the Atma. So Atma is the spirit. Okay, remember, pure unconditioned spirit, pure existence, which is Sat. So there is nothing like your Atma and my Atma. It is not your and my. It is a universal, unconditioned consciousness, which is the spirit. It is called as self. So many times there is confusion in the vocabulary. So please understand that the self with capital S, it always relates to Atma. Okay. Now the sixth principle, that is Buddhi. Buddhi is intuition. It is the direct knowledge. So Buddhi is also called the spiritual soul. You can see that the fifth, sixth, and the fourth principle, 4, 5, and 6, together they are called as soul. So Buddhi is the spiritual soul. Manas is the human soul and Kam is the animal soul. I will come to that. First, let us talk about Buddhi. Okay, so Buddhi is direct knowledge and it is also the vehicle of Atma and it is also called the spiritual soul. Okay, so direct knowledge means it has got nothing to do with thought. You don't need your mind. It is the knowledge which is existing and it can be directly gained by intuition, the higher self. So then we come to Manas. Now, Manas is a dual principle. In its function, in the functional aspect, it has dual functionality. As I said, that the lower 4 subplanes of the mental plane, they constitute lower mental, and the higher 3 subplanes are the higher mental. Okay, so the higher mental, let us see what H.P. Blavatsky says in her Key to Theosophy. She has mentioned that the future state and karmic destiny of man, it depends on whether the manas gravitates more downwards to Kamrup, which is the seat of animal passions, or upwards to Buddhi. So our karmic destiny depends on this, whether we let our manas go towards Buddhi or towards the lower calm principle of desire. Okay, and in the second case, that means in the case where the higher consciousness of our individual spiritual aspirations, they are assimilated with Buddhi and they are absorbed into the Buddhi, forming the ego, which goes into Devachanic bliss. I will explain this to you. It is to do with the states after death. Okay, that the higher aspirations, the spiritual aspirations of our mind, higher mind, they are absorbed and assimilated with the Buddhi, and that becomes our Buddhi Manas. Okay. Now, the lower aspect of our mind, the lower mental, that is the seat of concrete thought, logical reasoning, deduction. Okay, and it is guided by desire. That is our fourth principle, the principle of calm. Okay, it is guided many times. It is guided by that. So this lower mental tends towards desire. It is called calm manas. Okay, and that is the reason of our selfishness, because it is about our desires, what we want. We don't think about the universal. Okay, so calm roop is the seat of animal desire, and the principle of calm is also called animal soul. So though we have written that 6, 5 and 4, that is the buddhi, manas and calm, they form the soul aspect of man, but buddhi is spiritual soul, manas is human soul, and calm is the animal soul. That is also another classification. So that seat of animal desire and passion, it is the bestial instinct. Animals, they will work by instinct. They don't have any reasoning. They work by instinct. So that is why it is animal soul. And this is the center of animal man. When man does not behave with Vivek Buddhi, right? When he does not work with reason, with logic, with Vivek Buddhi, then he behaves like an animal. Then he behaves by instinct. He is more of a beast, a brute, rather than a man. Okay. So, and this is what separates the lower man from the higher man. Lower man is called personality, and higher man is the immortal real man. So this is what the calm, this principle, it separates the lower man from the higher man. Next, we come to the third principle, which is the Ling Sharir. Ling Sharir is called etheric double. Ling Sharir, it is the blueprint, it is the model of our physical body. Okay, it is also the energy body in which the chakra are situated. It is the body, it is the vehicle of pran, the second principle. Pran is the life force or the vital force which makes our physical body alive. Okay, pran is necessary. So, second principle is pran, and third principle is the last principle is the sthul sharir, that is our physical of the solar system. The fourth principle, that is principle of calm, it is existing on the emotion, desire plane, astral plane. And the manas, it is the mental plane, buddhi is the buddhic plane, and atma, that is the atmic plane. So if we consider man as a septenary, these are the 7 principles on the different planes. The plane Anupadak plane and Adi plane, we cannot even touch those planes, and we have no conception of what happens in those planes. Okay, so septenary man consists of the septenary 7 principles. If we consider man as a triune, that means having only 3 aspects, then that is the spirit, soul, and body. Okay, but you can see again how these 7 principles itself, they can be classified as the spirit, soul, and body. Now come to the some other terms which are used when we speak of man. We talk about monad. Now very clearly in the key to theosophy, Madam Blavatsky, she has mentioned that Atma Buddhi, that forms the monad because it functions as a single unit. Okay, so Atma by itself, it cannot express or it cannot become aware of anything unless it has a vehicle. So Buddhi is the vehicle of Atma. That is why Atma and Buddhi, they function as a single unit, and that is what is monad. Okay, mono, it means one, and this is what incarnates. It takes more and more vehicles at the lower level. So the occult constitution of man, it comprises of this upper triad, that is the immortal ego. Upper triad, it is the higher mental, the buddhi, and the atma. Okay, the lower quaternary, that is the lower 4 principles, they are perishable. So in every reincarnation, they will be new and they will perish after that life is over. The lower quaternary is the sthul sharir, pran, linga sharir, and kam. This forms the lower quaternary, and 5, 6, 7, that forms the upper immortal triad. Okay, so this is the occult constitution of man. The occult constitution of man describes him as that being in whom the highest spirit, which is Atma, and the lowest matter, that is on the physical plane, they are connected by the intellect, the manas. When manas is moved by desire, it goes towards calm and becomes calm manas. But when manas is moved by the spiritual, the virtues, the higher abstract ideas, it moves towards buddhi and becomes buddhi manas. Okay, and man is this kingdom, human kingdom, it is the only kingdom where this manas is given to the beings, to this form. In the other kingdoms, this faculty or this constituent is missing. So it is said, even the Dev, they want to incarnate as human beings because only in this form, in the human form, it is possible to realize our true nature. We saw that our true nature, Sat Chit Anand. Okay, so it is possible only due to Manas. Now, one more thing I wanted to explain here. It is mentioned that the link between this upper spiritual triad and the lower quaternary, that is called the Antahkarna. Okay, so I would like to just share one more slide. Yeah, the Antahkarna. Antahkarna is the link between the upper spiritual triad and the lower quaternary of man. The function of the lower mind, which will retain its purity. That means, see, even though the lower mind, it is reasoning and logical and thinking concrete ideas, but those ideas can be very spiritual because they can be compassionate, they can be loving. Okay, so whenever this is active, then this is a spiritual aspiration. This is due to the inspiration which is coming from our higher self into the lower personality. So figuratively speaking, this is a bridge. Okay, it acts like a two-way communication. So through this Antakarna, the spiritual influence, the higher influence of our Atma Buddhi, it is conveyed through this link. It is conveyed to the personality, and we behave very virtuously, right? All that is good, all that is noble, that is what we do. Okay, and whatever is this noble and the good and the virtuous things in our personality, it can be conveyed back, it can be assimilated back through the higher manas to buddhi. Okay, so this is Antakarna, and this is the link which is there between our higher triad and lower quaternary. And this link should, this is what, see, when HPP passed away, before she passed away, before she left her physical body, her last words were keep the link unbroken. That keep the link unbroken, those four words have such a deep meaning. It can mean that keep the link between us and the Mahatmas unbroken, because Mahatmas have given us these theosophical knowledge. It can also mean keep this link, the Antakarna, unbroken. Because who is the master? The master is nobody. He is your higher self. He is the Atma Buddhi Manas. One more thing which I did not tell you in the beginning, going back to the planes, the seven planes. So you see that beginning from the mental plane, so mental, astral, and physical, only on those three planes, body is possible. That means they are the plane of Roop. Roop is possible. A body can be formed. But the higher planes, that is Buddhik, Atmic, Anupadak, and Adi, they are Aroop planes. That means there is no formation of body. Okay, so you cannot say that my buddhic body and your buddhic body. No, it is one. Okay, so that is the first plane, the buddhic plane, where you will experience the universal oneness. Okay, so that is why Atma, Buddhi, Manas, that is our higher, the upper triad, that is connected, that is this aroop part, which is the universal part. It is connected to our individual or the personal part through this antakarna, and we can hope to achieve salvation or to achieve our real nature through this antakarna. That is the meaning what Madam Blavatsky said, keep the link unbroken. If you break the link, then then there is no salvation. Okay, so given the time constraint, I would like to close my talk here about the seven principles of man and the constitution of man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Viva, for a clear and a detailed talk on this complicated topic. You made it so simple to understand the constitution of man. Thank you all attendees of the session. We will organize more such sessions and intimate you. Thank you.